Hey everyone, it is JD and Wassabi. We wanted to give you a bit of an update of what's going on. I want to throw it to Will to start off and we'll take it from there. So, Will, what do you have for us?
Yeah. So, I mean, I know JD, we've talked about it over like Facebook and you've kind of seen it as a day by day thing, but the short of it is I'm probably going to be pulling back a little bit from the wannabes for the next few months just to kind of recover from a really tough summer that was one the worst in my life and two just like has burnt me to the crisp. And while there were good moments, it's definitely pushed me mentally and emotionally really far farther than anything really has before. And it kind of all started in like May, stuff with my family, big arguments and stuff like that, and kind of persisted in June. And that's nothing new. We've talked about it on the podcast as well. But the thing that changed was I decided to cut ties with my dad officially, like, kinda just, like it was a really bad relationship, it was cyclical and toxic, and it just wasn't, like, kinda a game that I wanted to play anymore to kinda keep up this facade of a family, and it was a really tough decision to, like, come to, um, and then when I made it, it was tough because it wasn't even, like, really, uh, received well by my mom especially, and so, um, yeah, it was tough because our relationship with my mom was on the ropes as well, and that was really dicey for a bit, and, during this whole time, I was, like, working and doing content stuff and doing the big one and all of that, and it just took a lot out of me on top of like a bunch of other small fires that happened and my cat getting sick and all of that and taking care of my cat and starting a new job. So yeah, it just took a lot and ultimately I cut ties with my dad and then um eventually got my relationship with my mom back in order, but it they were planning to visit in August and it was this whole like will they won't they sort of come situation with my mom and my little sister. Ultimately they did come, which was like good from like a logistical sense of it helped kind of solidify our relationship without my dad sort of in the picture, but it still was just really tough and took a lot out of me. And over last week I was on vacation and I kind of realized that nothing I'm kind of really doing or nothing that I have done, I it's so hard to explain because like also like on top of the family stuff, like I'm dealing with my cat stuff right now. My cat's like pretty sick. We're getting an ultrasound tomorrow. We thought we figured it out what it was, but it might be kitty cancer, unfortunately, and just kind of gearing up for that. So that's it's my family stuff is done, but more stuff is happening. But ultimately, over vacation, I realized that like I was just so burnt out and I kinda, like, vegged out and did nothing and disappeared and stopped playing, I wasn't even playing Melee, I was just, like, doing nothing and kinda went off the grid and realized that, like, none of my coping or recovery mechanisms were working, and it was because it's, like, this is something that I've never experienced before in terms of, like, one big fire after another big fire after a big fire, and as well, I do appreciate and believe I have, like, a lot of endurance for that sort of stuff, like, I am just, like, completely checked out in terms of, like, mentally and emotionally, and, like, my inner child is, like, screaming, there's a lot of anger and frustration and fear, honestly, about the future, and, cutting off my dad feels like a death, except he's still living, and it was my choice, and so I'm still kinda grieving in my own way of the idea of never really having a dad, in my life, which is something that, I didn't want a good dad. Like, I knew I never had a good dad, but, like, I'm never gonna have a dad that I want, so it is really tough, and I think because of that, I'm gonna kind of scale back on a lot of things that I'm gonna be doing. Pretty much everything besides like playing melee because that's something that gives me energy back and feels just kind of grounding at the moment. But in terms of like the podcast and content stuff, I'm gonna just kind of like take that, put that in the back burner on like a indefinite hiatus until I kind of feel like I can add it back on and kind of get back on my feet, just because it's been tough, and because none of my like recovery or coping mechanisms have been working, I kind of realized, as I said, that I gotta just kind of give it time and let it heal and kind of process everything and just catch my breath, because it's I've been in survival mode, and that's been tough for the last few months. So yeah, that's kind of my unfortunate update. And hopefully in a few months time I can kind of get back into Wannabes, because I love this podcast and I love the community that we're building.
Yeah, and I totally hear you. And the conversation we had before, and I said something on there. It's I think it's worth repeating that this is never taking precedent over your needs, right? Like my needs or the need of the podcast should never go above your own, because that goes against what we made this for, right? And so, without hesitation, like I'm more than happy to, keep the ball rolling in any capacity. And for our listeners that might be disappointed that we're not doing this thing anymore, well, I don't think you would have wanted it if it was forced. It's that's goes against like the whole point of why we're making this. So, and also if you follow Will's YouTube channel, you know that he only makes the good shit when it comes to him.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of just the way that we've built the foundation. And God, my heart hurts hearing all this. Like it's not something we need to go back and forth on now. I'm really hopeful that these the new mechanisms and the new solutions come sooner than later. But it's like it's going to come when it comes, but it will. It will arrive. It's just a matter of allowing it to in due time. Um, and so in the meantime, we're going to record a quick thing right after this segment. Some questions came in that I think are really, I was looking over the questions. They're like the perfect things I want to talk about right now. It's like right in the passion area. It's the stuff that we can kind of get excited about and really think positively on the melee scene and everything. And it was really nice, just those questions came in like very quickly after we requested it, so that was dope as hell. um I I know I'm speaking for both of us when I say that the community is the best part of this by far.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I want to I want everyone to know that, like, just because Will's taking a hiatus doesn't mean that he doesn't want to like stay in touch with everyone and all that stuff.
I'll still be on Discord for sure. I'll
uh,
be a Wannabes fan along with you all.
yeah, and I'm gonna do my weird shit. We'll see what happens out of it. And sometimes the hiatus we talk about taking breaks from melee being good for melee. Well, maybe taking a break from the podcast is good for the podcast. You never know. But I think of this as not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It is just the right thing. And so,
Yeah.
if you have anything else you want to talk about it, um, I feel like I've spoken to my end. How do you want to leave it before we get to some cool ass questions for next week?
Yes. I think the biggest thing I want to just say is like, I, feel really comfortable sharing this, and it's something that I haven't been like, uh, I've always been kind of open about it, but I do want to just like kind of give back to the community and kind of tell them why this is happening and kind of my decision for it. And, I didn't say too much at the time, just because I was, between my therapist and my psychiatrist and friends and Pilar, my girlfriend, and all of that, I was just like talked out. And I think that's generally kind of like the vibe right now, is that I am desperately just trying to get out of survival mode and just to kind of like, you know, be able to kind of relax and take care of my inner child and take care of myself, honestly. Um, Really, part of that is also just rediscovering kind of the curiosity and excitement for the wannabes. Just as you said, JD, like I definitely, even if it's an indefinite hiatus, I definitely plan on coming back. I just wanted to kind of get this off my chest so that it's not like I suddenly like slowly dissipate into silence because I'm also going to be on the Discord as well. Um, but I just need some time to kind of like heal and do my thing to be able to give you guys the kind of like the content that you want and the content that I want too. And I think that's the really ultimately the biggest thing. And I know JD's gonna kill it with his stuff and maybe bring on some guests and stuff like that. And so, I just want to say thanks, JD, for being like such a good friend and understanding and supportive through like all of it. Cause you've kind of had the front seat like live, breaking news like as it happened, which is crazy. So yeah, I just really appreciate you and you having capacity for a lot of my stuff.
I'm happy to hear that, man. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Uh, having built, we talk. I actually take it back. I think the community comes second. I think like building a friendship with you is definitely number one
Oh,
of what came out of this. So, look, if whatever we've taken a 6 month hiatus before. Like
yeah, yeah,
it is what it is, man. And just I know me and you are going to be talking off mic throughout the whole thing, and I'm here to lend an ear and to say some weird metaphor that you don't understand, and then well,
yeah. Bro, have you decided to try acid yet?
yeah. I like DM your psychiatrist, and I'm like, look, this is the move, and I send her How to Change Your Mind by Michael
Yeah,
Pollan and all that stuff. So, um, I think it's a good place to end off. Thank you to everyone for sticking with us, for the kind words on Discord, for the patience, for everything. Um, and we're gonna answer some questions, and we're gonna try to keep this ball rolling the best way we can.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, love you all guys, like all the listeners and stuff like that. Though, ones that come in every week and the ones that, start and stop, we love you all the same. So, yeah, this message was for you all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Peace.